Hi there, and welcome back to the Clara CFO Group channel. Today, we're talking all about PPP2. So as you know, the stimulus bill has been passed. It's a $900 billion stimulus bill, and I don't have a great name for it just yet. We're still hoping that we have something sometime soon to call it that's a little bit easier than $900 billion stimulus bill, but this is where we're at right now. And today we're going to talk specifically about the second opportunity to get another PPP loan. So if that sounds interesting to you, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about eligibility, whether or not you're eligible for a second round loan, and some things to think about as you're preparing for that. We're going to talk a little bit about the revenue test that is part of that eligibility requirement. I'm going to give you guys a spreadsheet that is available for download from my website. You can look in the description box below for that link. We are going to look specifically at the calculations, and then I'm going to pop into QuickBooks and just show you how to pull that report if you have QuickBooks, but that same type of report can be pulled from pretty much any accounting software. So that's kind of the high level summary of what we're going to talk about in this. If you're looking for another round of PPP, please watch the whole thing. We do need to prove out a couple things in order to get that money. So if that sounds interesting, please stay tuned. Go ahead and subscribe to this channel if you're not already, because I've got a lot more videos about PPP coming down the pike, and guidance is going to be just developing over the next couple weeks. So we're going to get a lot of new information, and you're going to want to stay tuned to make sure that you get in this round if it's available to you. So subscribe, click the little notification button as well, and let's go ahead and get started. All right, so PPP2. Eligibility. The two big things is that if you're getting a second round of PPP, the first thing is that you have to have a certain number of employees. So you can't have more than 300 employees. The first round of PPP, you could have up to 500, and then sometimes even above 500 if you met certain requirements as a small business. But for the second round, you have to have less than 300 employees. And this is just for any old business, okay? Any old small business. We do have a couple other eligibility caveats. It's specifically if you have an NAICS code of 72, that's going to be our hospitality type businesses. If you have that, there's a couple other eligibility requirements. I'm probably going to just go do a totally separate video on that because there's a lot of detail there. Okay. But for most of us, it's going to be, do you have less than 300 employees? Okay. If you do, then that's the first test. So good job. Okay. So then the second test, and this is where a lot of people are going to get bumped out of the program if they are at all, is that they have to prove out a decline in revenue. And the way that that's going to work is that you have to have a decline in revenue from any one quarter when you compare 2019 to 2020, and you have to prove a decline in revenue of 25%. So just to give really high level numbers, and we're going to pop this into the spreadsheet in just a little bit. Let's say you had $100,000 in Q2 of revenue in Q2 2019, and then you had $75,000 in revenue in Q2 of 2020, that would check the box of a 25% or more decline. Okay, so we're going to pop in to a spreadsheet here in a second, and we can prove out a couple more numbers there, but I want to just kind of give you guys the high level. There were lots of numbers thrown around before this bill actually finalized. I saw 50%, I saw 30%, and I'm seeing so many people still really confused about that piece. So this is only having to prove out one quarter. Okay. So even if you had 3 quarters where your revenue was up and 1 quarter where your revenue was down, that is okay. You can still check the box to say that you did have that revenue loss. Okay. So that is a really big thing. You don't have to do kind of any annualized test along with a quarter test. It's just any 1 quarter in 2020. All right. Now, another really big eligibility requirement for PPP is that you had to be in business as of February 15th, 2020. There are a couple people, and I've seen people been asking, hey, I started my business in 2020. Can I apply for PPP? The answer is yes, as long as you started your business before February 15th of 2020. Okay, remember this bill was supposed to be, PPP is supposed to be a status quo bill. We're just trying to keep businesses open that were open before. So if you opened after February 15th, you might need to look for other stimulus and other things to potentially help you out. But PPP is not going to be for you, okay? If you started before February 15th of 2020. All right, so those are kind of the really high level eligibility things. I know there's probably not a lot of people watching this channel who are going to be falling into these categories, but if you are a business for lobbying activities, you can't apply for a PPP. There are a couple other caveats as well. Like if you have foreign ownership, specifically if you have ownership, direct ownership from China, or somebody who is a Chinese resident living in China, you do need to look at the specifics and see if you might be uneligible because of that stipulation. Okay, so they've specifically were trying to make it more localized to US based businesses, and they've specifically called out China for some of the other ownership pieces of that. Okay, all right, so PPP2, I think the best thing for us to do now is to just go ahead and jump directly into the spreadsheet. I'll give you guys the spreadsheet, and you can download it from the description box below. And this is added on to my PPP tracking, which I've updated for PPP2 with some of the additional eligible costs that we're going to go over in another video. But I want to go ahead and make this available to you guys because this is kind of urgent. We need to know whether or not you need to be getting ready to apply for another loan. All right, so let's go ahead and hop into the Excel spreadsheet now. All right, so I have gone ahead and prepared a gross receipts decline test for you guys because I know that this is something that not everybody just be able to prepare on their own. So what I've done is I've actually added it to my total PPP budget planning document. So you can get this on the website. As I've mentioned, the link will be in the description below. I'll also try to put it and pin it in the comments so it's easy access, but you can grab this and just start to input. So I have put the purpose and the use up here so you can read through that. And then just some guidelines around like what the SBA is going to do around gross receipts. So we are waiting for some clarification. I think it's okay to go ahead and say that we are going to assume what we know gross receipts to be right now. It's typically revenue. So whether or not you are on a cash basis or you are on an accrual basis, I recommend going with whichever one you are reporting taxes on. So if you're reporting on an accrual basis, go ahead and put accrual basis revenue numbers in this spreadsheet. But if you're reporting on cash basis, you want to do that. And we just also want to make sure we exclude, like, don't include your PPP loan proceeds or your EIDL loan or grant in here. Okay, that's not technically revenue, so you want to leave it out of gross receipts. And then if you have any other kind of funding from a loan or equity infusion or anything like that, you want to leave that out of gross receipts. Okay, we're looking mostly, if you're going to be looking at your profit and loss statement, you're going to be mostly looking at your revenue numbers here. Okay, it should just be revenue if you're reporting revenue correctly on your P&L. Okay, so what we want to do here is I've created separate tables because the guidelines specifically say if you were in business all of 2019 and 2020, here's what you can do. If you were in business for half of 2019 and all of 2020, here's what you do. And then if you were only in business in Q4 of 2019, here's what you do. Okay. So, and then if you started your business in Q1 of 2020 before February 15th, like we talked about, then I have a calculation down here for you here. Okay. So you want to determine which one of these you fall into. But we're just going to go ahead and give the example of, let's say there was a business owner that did about the same in Q1 of 2019 to 2020, and then really started to see the decline happening in Q2. Okay. And then let's just say that all of last year was 2019 was looking good. And then let's say, maybe even they made up for it. Let's say they made up for it in Q4. Okay. So here's your 2020 numbers. Here's your 2019 numbers. Even though the total gross is really close to what 2019 would be, what we're really looking for here to see if you test and you can apply for PPP is whether or not you've triggered this percent change into a negative 25%. So I've highlighted anything that's going to get you there basically. So this Q2 or Q3, both are qualifying this business into into a situation where they can apply for a PPP. Let's just say that this was 125,000, still with only one quarter triggered, they can still apply for PPP. Now, what if this was 80,000? Can they apply for PPP? No. Okay. Even if this was all combined, even if each quarter was maybe had a loss here, here, and here, this still would not trigger the eligibility for PPP. Okay, so I wanted you guys to see that really visually because this is what we're talking about here. Okay, same thing would happen. Let's just copy these down here. If this business was open in Q3 of 2019 and then experienced a loss in Q3 of 2020, then you can look at that loss. And same thing, you can't say, oh, from Q1 loss compared to a Q4 loss, they don't want that to happen. Okay, so you have to compare apples to apples, quarter to quarter, if you were open at all in 2019. Now, the caveat to that will be if you were open in 2020, let's say you opened your business January 1, 2020, and let's say you made $50,000 in Q1, and then you made $40,000 in Q2, and then you made $30,000 in Q3. But then maybe in Q4, you went back up to 60. Now, what we're doing here is it's saying we can compare any of the quarters after Q1 to Q1. So instead of like up here, we're comparing 2020 to 2019. If you opened in before February 15th of 2020, but it was in 2020 when you opened up business, then you can compare Q1 or any of these quarters to Q1. Okay, so this calculation is set up correctly to make that calculation for you. But in this scenario, you would be able to claim that you need a PPP loan or that you are eligible for a PPP loan because of this one quarter decline. Okay, so I did make a note down here. If you start your business after February 15th, you are not eligible. Okay, so this is how to use this gross receipts spreadsheet. If this is helpful to you, definitely use it, save it. You can, use it as a referencing document if you want to tie your maybe your P&L numbers directly in here when you go to just prepare your audit file for your PPP loan. You can go ahead and use this if it's helpful to you. Okay. All right. So that is the gross receipts test spreadsheet. I'm going to go ahead and pop in now to QuickBooks and show you how to pull a report if you have a system like that up and running. All right, so here we are in the sample company for QuickBooks Online. And again, I'm just using QuickBooks Online because I have access to a sample company here. I don't want to share any sensitive information, but this is mostly just showing you the type of information that we're trying to pull from your accounting software. So if you have a different accounting software, that's totally fine. You essentially want to go through these same type of steps. And essentially we're trying to get a comparative P&L from 2020 to 2019 based on quarters, okay? And we wanna be able to calculate the percent change between those quarters. So that's what we're gonna do here. I would say the information in this has not been preloaded. So I'm basically just gonna show you how to pull the report, and then I'm gonna show you some results of a actual company that's been modified to kind of keep everything private. So you will go to reports, and then you'll go to the P&L. And then you're going to want to pull last year's data. So you're going to do last year, or you're going to change the date to say 1/1 to 12/31, because we have to go by the calendar year here. We don't have the option to do a modified fiscal year. Same with calendar quarters. You go by a calendar quarter. All right, as far as we know right now. Okay. So we're going to go to display columns by quarters, and then we're going to compare. This is where we do that comparison to previous year, dollar change, and really all you need is the percent change, but I've got the dollar change and percent change here. And then you're going to make sure you're on your correct accounting basis. So this company reports on cash. So we would run the report from here. Now, like I said, there's basically zero information actually being provided in this accounting software. But the columns that we're going to want to look at are these total income, your income column. So whatever the SBA determines as gross receipts, it's probably going to be something like total income before expenses, before before some of the things you might take out in your gross margin, we're going to look at total income, total receipts, and then really this percent change here per quarter. So you would look at this one, you would look at this one, you would look at this one, and so on. So Q1 percent change, Q2 percent change, Q3, etc. Okay, so that's how you pull it. Let's go ahead and look at a good example in just a second. All right, so if after we run that report with a QuickBooks file that actually has some data in it, we will get something that looks kind of like this. I've modified this a little bit just to make it a little clearer for YouTube. By adding some highlighting and adding some lines here. But essentially, this is the report that I was trying to just create in QuickBooks. And when it comes out, this is what we're going to get. So we're going to get Q1 data, Q2, etc. So in this company, their total income line is here. And so I'm really concerning myself with these numbers here. Okay, this is the percent change. These are the numbers that we are paying attention to. And so this is triggering me to say, and this is, this is a company that I've worked with and I understand this makes a lot of sense. I know that revenue did decline and we are seeing some kind of extreme numbers here. We're seeing a 37% loss and a 46% loss in Q3 and Q4. So whether or not we had a loss in both quarters or a loss in one, it does not matter. We just need to prove the loss in one quarter. So I wanted to show you guys exactly what that looks like so you know what you need to be looking for when you're pulling your reports. All right, so I hope that was helpful to walk through first the numbers that we need to look at, how the calculation is being done, and then how to pull it directly in your accounting software, and then what it looks like as a result when it comes out of the accounting software and what numbers we need to look at. So hopefully kind of looking over that whole process, you can determine whether or not you are eligible for a second draw of the PPP loan or and again, this eligibility requirement specifically to prove out a revenue loss is not required if this is your first PPP loan. So if you did not get one in the first round and you're trying to get one in the second round, you actually don't have to prove out your revenue loss, okay? So you just need to go back to original eligibility requirements, which like we said, were pretty lax. There wasn't a whole lot there. So now this is for specifically if you're wanting that second round of PPP. All right. Well, I hope that's super helpful to you. There's going to be a lot more guidance coming down the pike in the next couple weeks. Please stay tuned. Please subscribe to this channel. Put on the little notification button as well, because I promise you there's going to be a lot more we're going to have to go through here. So I will do my very best to get information to you as quickly as possible. So stay tuned for that. And again, if you want a copy of my spreadsheet, make sure you get it in the description box below. You can go and I've got a couple other resources there for PPP and helping you through the process as well. So feel free to check all of that out. I've also got other resources that have nothing to do with PPP and just related to helping you and your small business achieve just your financial success. So go ahead and check that out. And just put any comments in the comments section below and we will get to them. And also just be a little bit patient as guidance is coming out, because some things we don't know yet. And we're just trying to get out what we do know now and how to prepare you as quickly as possible for getting a potential second loan. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.